My name is Julian Gangoli. I'm the president of Allergan North America, and I'm delighted to be here. Jamar very kindly, and it was with a lot of privilege that I said, yeah, I would love to write the foreword to his book, and I'm honored that Jamar asked me to do that. What's interesting about Jamar's history, and I took a little liberty to get into his extensive personnel file. Is anyone from HR here? Good, because we're not meant to go in and look at people's personnel files when they're locked up. But it was, as Hector said, it was very interesting that Jamar, when he first started at Allergan, and he was in the Inroads program, he joined in 1993, and just as an aside, what Hector said about Inroads is amazing. We've had some true stars that have come through that program. Jamar Brown, Mike Jafar, who can't be with us tonight, and Alex Lopez. Is Alex here? Alex, congratulations. Just an outstanding individuals that came through the Inroads program, and a program that we want at Allergan to really continue to improve. But Jamar had a tough time. He went out into the field, and for the first probably 2 or 3 years, he struggled a little bit, and he had his challenges. And what really impressed me about his book was I didn't need to read the personnel file. And do you know why? Because his book explains in a much more candid and open and honest way about how he faced the challenges of his first 3 years as a medical sales representative. And I think that takes a lot of honesty from anyone to be able to go out there and say, hey, you know what? I didn't get it right, but I had a recipe to get it right. And that's what I think is so exciting about the book that Jamar is going to unveil this evening. There is one story. You have to have a Jamar story, right? There is one story that is not in the book, and this is compliments Jamar of Mike Jafar. Yes. And some of you know this story, and it is true. This is Jamar in his first week. Now, legend has it, urban legend has it, this was his first day. But I think it was his first week, to give him a little latitude. So if you can imagine Jamar, out through Inroads, got his degree, nice suit, company car, everything's brand new, and it starts to rain. In Southern California, who would guess it, right? It starts to rain. So Jamar rationalizes, well, look, I got a brand new company car, I got a brand new suit, new haircut. I'm sure that the roads are going to be congested, and I'm convinced that patients are not going to go into doctors' offices, and there is no way that Allergan is going to expect someone like myself to go out in the rain. This is God's honest truth. Right? You can tell how challenging his personnel record was, right? So he rationalizes, and he calls his area manager and says, it's raining and I plan to take the day off and call it a rain day. This is true, Amanda. Now, what transpires between manager and representative is not for tonight to hear. It was, a little tricky, some direct language was used. The upshot of it was of course, that Jamar went out that evening, that afternoon, made his doctor calls, and his very expensive suit got very wet. And it was a somewhat, unauspicious start to his career at Allergan. Again, what was impressive about the fact was that, he talks about not exactly that story, but a number of other stories like that in his book. So that, to me, talks about someone who can really be honest to set an example for other individuals. So, about the book. So what's your sales story? What's the bottom line of this book? Well, what's incredibly impressive is the fact that all of us probably go into a bookstore and we read, we look along the titles and we see all these self-help books about motivation, how to be a better salesperson, how to be a better communicator. And the people who are writing them are academics, CEOs from the corner office, or wannabe comedians. But if you sort of cuddle through it and you ask yourself, what am I getting out of this book? There are really two questions you've got to ask yourself. The first one is it relevant to what I'm doing? And is it changing the way that I am going to interact with my customers and impact them in a meaningful way? And when I read Jamar's book, and I read it 2 or 3 times because I felt it was important. If someone was asking your advice, you invest the appropriate amount of time. And what was really impressive about this book, that if you're in the pharmaceutical industry, this book, in quotes, is a must-read. Because it really tells you about how to get on in this industry. Now, we are blessed in the pharmaceutical industry to deal day in and day out with healthcare professionals whose sole orientation is to look after patients. And the thing that they don't want is their time to be wasted. Wasting a physician's time or their practice is just not appropriate. And what this book does, it doesn't go through the sort of rote way of doing sales. So when you look at what a representative does on a day in and day out business, day in, day out occasion, what's impressive is that you need to communicate in a way that makes a difference. You've got to tell a story. Now, the cost of entry for the pharmaceutical industry is great products. You've got to get that. But in our industry, it's about a long-term relationship. And the long-term relationship between a sales representative and that healthcare professional is about that individual. It's not only about the product and the company. It's about that individual. And it's about that individual telling their story to that physician. And that's what I think is so impressive about this book, because it is the only book that I have read to date that puts it in that perspective. And that's why I think it's going to be so successful. And that's why I think Jamar has found a niche that none of the other motivational speakers have got. And that is really talking from here and putting the customer first and foremost in place. The other thing that I would suggest is that individuals, my peer group, when you're telling a story, this is a must-read for people in management, because it's not just about customers, but when you're standing up here and you're talking to sales representatives or employees, you've got to impress upon them what they're doing, and you've got to sell yourself. So I think every senior manager has to have their own sales story. And when I read Jamar's book, it encouraged me to make sure I knew what mine was. And I can tell you there are not a lot of books that I've read that had that impact on me. So I really compliment Jamar on that. So that's my take on it. I think what Jamar has done is extraordinarily impressive. I think tonight we have an opportunity to celebrate someone who is stepping out on the ledge and doing something in an environment which is very tough at this present moment in time, to make a difference in a way that he knows and feels that he can do.